There are stories in sports that follow a familiar, uplifting rhythm. They are tales of adversity overcome, of last-minute victories, of trophies held aloft under a shower of confetti. They are the stories we seek out, the narratives that inspire us. But sometimes sports journalism is called upon to tell a different kind of story. A story that doesn't build to a crescendo of triumph, but falls into a sudden, unbearable silence. This is one of those stories. It's a story about a light that shone with incredible brightness before being extinguished in the cruelest of moments. This is the story of Diogo José Teixeira de Silva, the man the world knew and loved as Diogo Jota. Our story must begin at its end, on the 3rd of July, 2025. The news broke like a fissure in the earth, a shocking, incomprehensible report that journalists and fans alike read and reread, praying it was a mistake. On a dark, isolated stretch of highway in the province of Zamora, Spain, a single car had left the road. As the details emerged from the Spanish Civil Guard, the horror crystallized into fact. Inside the vehicle were two brothers. The driver, whose identity was part of the ongoing investigation, had lost control. The car had crashed, and it had burned. The names confirmed were Diogo Jota, age 28, and his younger brother Andre Silva, age 25. Gone. The word itself felt hollow, impossible. Diogo Jota, the star forward for Liverpool and Portugal, is a player in the absolute prime of his career. A man who had just married his childhood sweetheart 11 days earlier, father to 3 young children. Gone. The shockwave was instantaneous and global. It was a tragedy that transcended club colors and national borders, uniting the entire footballing world in a single, somber moment of profound grief. To understand the depth of that loss, you have to understand the journey of the man, a journey that was never easy, but was always fueled by a relentless, unshakable will to succeed. To find the start of his story, we must travel back to Porto, Portugal, to the parish of Macerelos. This is where Diogo Jota grew up. He was not a product of the gilded academies of Benfica or Sporting Lisbon. He wasn't a golden boy earmarked for stardom from the age of 10. His beginnings were humble. His journey began at Paços de Ferreira, a smaller, hard-working club. It was here that the first sparks of his immense talent became visible. He was tenacious, technically gifted, with a footballing brain that saw the game 2 steps ahead of those around him. In February of 2015, he made history, becoming the youngest player to score for the club in the Primeira Liga. He was just a teenager, but he played with the maturity and confidence of a seasoned veteran. It wasn't long before one of Europe's giants came calling. In Arling-y-Lille, Atletico Madrid, under the famously demanding Diego Simeone, signed the young Portuguese prodigy.
On the surface, it was a dream move, a validation of his immense potential. The football journeys are rarely a straight line. The move to Madrid proved to be a critical, if difficult, chapter.
He never made a first-team appearance for Atletico, instead being sent out on loan. His first loan spell was a return home. It was a chance to prove himself on one of Portugal's biggest stages, and prove himself he did. He made his Champions League debut and, in true Jota fashion, scored his first goal in the competition. He was showing the world that he belonged at the highest level, that the promise seen at Paços de Ferreira was real and potent. Yet his path was not destined to remain in Portugal. Another move was on the horizon, one that would change the trajectory of his career and introduce him to the world in a way he never had been before. He was heading to England. In 2017, Wolverhampton Wanderers, and a club in England's second division, the Championship, made a bold move. They secured Diogo Jota on loan as part of an ambitious project led by manager Nuno Espirito Santo. It was a perfect match. Jota was the catalyst, the attacking dynamo that Wolves built their system around. The Championship is a notoriously grueling league, a 46-game marathon of physicality and pressure. For Jota, it was a playground. He was a whirlwind of skill and energy, scoring 17 goals and terrorizing defenses across the country. He wasn't just a lone player. He was the heart of the team that stormed the championship title and secured promotion to the promised land of the Premier League. Wolves wisely made the move permanent. And as they stepped up to the Premier League, Jota stepped up with them. He didn't just survive in the world's most demanding league, he thrived. He scored the club's first Premier League goal in years. He netted crucial winners. He scored a famous hat-trick against Leicester City, and another in the Europa League. He was no longer a promising youngster. He was a proven top-class forward, known for his relentless pressing, his intelligent movement, and his uncanny ability to score important goals. The bigger the occasion, the brighter Jota shone. For 3 years, he was the icon of a resurgent Wolves team. But his performances had not gone unnoticed. At the pinnacle of English football, a giant was watching. In the autumn of 2020, Liverpool, a football club, then the reigning champions of England, made a move that surprised some pundits. They signed Diogo Jota. The question on many lips was, would he just be a backup? Squad player to give the famous front three of Maine, Salah, and Firmino a rest? Anyone who had watched Diogo Jota's career knew the answer. He was not born to be a backup. His impact at Anfield was immediate and electric. He scored on his home debut against Arsenal, came off the bench to score late winners, and then came the moment that announced his arrival as a true Liverpool star. Away from home, in the Champions League against a tough Atalanta side, Jota put on a masterclass, scored a sensational hat-trick, a perfect display of his varied finishing ability. A clever dink, a powerful strike, and a calm, composed rounding of the keeper. It was a statement. It wasn't just a member of the squad. It was a challenger, a player who would push everyone around him to be better. He quickly earned the affectionate nickname from the Anfield faithful, Jota the Slotter. It was a name born of respect for his incredible finishing. He had a sixth sense for where the ball would drop, an almost supernatural ability to be in the right place at the right time. He wasn't the tallest, but he was a phenomenal header of the ball, possessing a leap that defied his stature. He was genuinely two-footed, equally capable of unleashing a thunderous shot with his left or his right, making him a nightmare for defenders. But his game was about so much more than just goals. He was, as Jurgen Klopp would often say, a pressing monster. His work ethic was astonishing. He would harry and chase defenders, triggering the press and setting the tone for Liverpool's intense, high-energy football. His versatility was a manager's dream. He could play on the left wing, on the right, or through the middle as a number 9. He seamlessly adapted to whatever the team needed, his football intelligence allowing him to excel in any role. During his 5 years at Liverpool, he became a serial winner, lifted the Premier League trophy, the FA Cup, 2 Carabao Cups. He was a player for the big moments, a man who contributed to one of the most successful periods in the club's modern history. Off the pitch, he was a more private figure. He was a dedicated family man, devoted to his partner Ruth Cardoso, whom he had met in high school, and their 3 young children. He was also a world-class gamer, famously being crowned the number 1 player in the world on the FIFA video game's Foot Champions mode. It was a glimpse into his competitive nature, whether on the grass of Anfield or in the virtual world. Diogo Jota played to win. His life was a beautiful tapestry of professional success and personal joy. The wedding to Ruth on June 22, 2025, was the culmination of a lifelong love story. His social media posts from that time were filled with happiness and hope. A photo from the wedding, captioned simply, "Yes to forever." A comment under his new wife's post, "I'm the lucky one." These were the words of a man who had everything he had ever dreamed of. A loving family, a career at the pinnacle of his sport, the respect of his peers, and the adoration of millions of fans. And that is what makes the sudden, violent end, too. His story so utterly heartbreaking. It wasn't just a life cut short. It was a perfect dream shattered into a million pieces. As the news of his death spread, tributes poured in from every corner of the globe. His club, Liverpool, released a statement saying they were simply devastated. Former manager Jurgen Klopp, the man who brought him to Anfield, wrote that he was heartbroken. Flowers, scarves, and shirts created a makeshift shrine outside Anfield, a testament to the love the city had for him. Moments of silence were held at matches across Europe. But amidst the global outpouring of grief, the world waited for a message from one man in particular. A man who was not just Jota's teammate, but his captain, his mentor, and his childhood hero, Cristiano Ronaldo. The relationship between Diogo Jota and Cristiano Ronaldo is a story in itself. It is a story of a generational shift in Portuguese football, of an idol becoming a peer, and of a deep mutual respect that transcended the pitch. For anyone of Jota's generation in Portugal, Cristiano Ronaldo was more than a footballer. Was a godlike figure, the man who had single-handedly lifted the nation to the zenith of the sport. Jota grew up watching Ronaldo's explosive emergence at the 2004 European Championship. He was just a boy then, but the image of this electrifying winger in a Portugal shirt became his inspiration. It was the dream he would chase for the rest of his life. When Jota finally made his debut for the senior national team, he was no longer just a fan watching from afar. He was sharing a dressing room, a training pitch, and a forward line with his hero. For many young players, this can be an intimidating experience. But Jota, with his quiet confidence and incredible work rate, earned Ronaldo's respect almost immediately. Ronaldo, in the latter stages of his own legendary career, had assumed the role of a mentor to the new generation. He saw, in players like Jota, Bernardo Silva, and Bruno Fernandes, the future of the Selecao. On the pitch, they formed a potent partnership. Ronaldo, the iconic finisher and penalty box predator, and Jota, the intelligent, dynamic forward, whose movement created space and chaos for defenses to deal with. Jota's ability to press from the front was something Ronaldo no longer did, but it was vital for the team's structure. They complemented each other perfectly. When Portugal won the UEFA Nations League, Jota and Ronaldo celebrated side by side. Two generations of Portuguese greatness united in victory. It was a symbolic passing of the torch, even as the original flame still burned brightly. Jota was seen by all as a key figure who would carry Portugal's attacking hopes for the next decade. This is the context that makes Cristiano Ronaldo's reaction to Jota's death so profoundly moving. His tribute posted on social media was not a carefully crafted press release. It was a raw, unfiltered expression of human grief and disbelief. He wrote in Portuguese, "It doesn't make sense. We were just together with the national team. You had just gotten married. To your family, your wife, and your children, I send my condolences and wish them all the strength in the world. I know you will always be with them. Rest in peace, Diego and Andre. We will all miss you." Those four opening words, "It doesn't make sense," became the refrain for the entire footballing world. They perfectly captured the senselessness of the tragedy. How could a player so full of life, at the absolute peak of his powers, with a young family and a future shining so brightly, simply be gone? Ronaldo's message wasn't from a global superstar to a fallen colleague. It was from a friend, a captain, a big brother, to a member of his footballing family who had been cruelly snatched away. It spoke of shared moments, of recent conversations, of a future they were supposed to share. It was a message that confirmed the depth of the personal loss felt within the inner sanctum of the Portuguese national team. The hero was mourning, the heir apparent, and in his grief he spoke for an entire, heartbroken nation. The legacy Diogo Jota leaves behind is complex. There are the stats, of course, the goals, the assists, the trophies. But his true legacy is found in the journey itself. It is a lesson in perseverance, a reminder that you don't need to be from a famous academy to reach the very top. It is a testament to the power of hard work, humility, and an unshakable belief in your own abilities. He was a player who played with a ferocious intensity, but also with an infectious, boyish joy. You could see it in his smile after a goal, and the way he celebrated with his teammates. He loved football, and football loved him back. In the end, we are left with the silence. The silence where his quick-footed dribbles and clever passes should be. The silence where his clinical finishes and joyous celebrations should be. The silence in a home where a husband and father should be. It is a profound and unbearable silence. Diogo Jota's story was supposed to have many more chapters. But in the 28 years he was given, he wrote a masterpiece. A story of a boy from Porto who dared to dream, who fought his way to the top of the world, and who, in the process, captured the hearts of millions. He was a champion, a hero, a husband, a father, a son, and a brother, and he will be remembered always.